everyone, and welcome to Political Paradigm. I am Terry Ikumi. Now, last week I spoke with Akim Braithwaite. He is the governorship candidate on the platform of the National Rescue Movement for Lagos State. Today we stay with Lagos State, and this time my guest is the governorship candidate for the Labour Party, Mr. Badebo Rhodes Vivour. Welcome to Political Paradigm.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
It's good to see you. I like to have conversations with young people like myself because it's sort of encouraging considering the political space that doesn't seem to favor young people.
Well, yeah. I see that. I see why you say that, but I also say that a lot of young people have not really taken the bull by the horn, and power is not served a la carte. It's something you have to have the confidence, the courage, the persistence to go for, and, strike it and give it all you have to get it, and it's not just a one-off journey. It's a journey that you build and you only get stronger. So it's something you have to be persistent with.
That's great. So how's campaign going for you?
Good. I've always said that our strategy was a surge strategy. We've started that surge, and I feel that all our plans are coming together. So I'm quite happy with where we are now.
You're confident? We're just about, I think, a month away from the elections now. You're confident about winning?
We are forming the next government in Lagos State.
That's beautiful to know. So let me ask you this question. Has the state government, has the ruling party been fair to you and other political...
Oh, no, of course not. Of course not. From the governorship candidates saying that he's not going to come for a debate, I mean, it's petty, but it's not petty, actually, because the state needs to hear from their governor, their chief security officer, the manager of their finances, about his stewardship in the last 4 years, right? And using violence as an excuse. I mean, this is coming from somebody that their party has literally institutionalized agberoism and cults behavior, touts behavior in our politics. They literally have they've birthed that in Lagos politics. And you have a situation where, so much violence that we've experienced in Lagos State, from the NSAS movement, shooting at innocent civilians at the toll gates. We're still asking who gave the order. These are people that have been superintending over all of that. And then they're saying they cannot come to a stage because of violence. I mean, just the week before the debates, one of our members was macheted on the forehead because he was pasting Peter Obi posters. There are so many parts of Lagos State, in different local governments, we encounter so much harassment and threats, from APC members because we just want to post our posters and just declare our own support for this party. So it's been very problematic, and it's very worrisome because a party that has been in charge of Lagos State for so many years and claims to have done such development work, why are they so insecure? Why are they harassing and intimidating a party without structure? Right? Why can't they just live and let live? That's the culture of Lagos. It was that culture of Lagos that allowed for a man from Miragbiji, Osun State, to become what he became. We are people that are welcoming, but unfortunately, they're bringing a new culture to Lagos, which really needs to be addressed.
So let me ask you about your political history now. In 2019, at 35, you ran for Senate. And
yes.
Under the platform of the People's Democratic Party.
Yeah.
It's 2023 now. You're running for governor under the platform of the Labour Party. What has informed the switch in parties and ambition?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, the journey after my senatorial run, which is a very good run, I started building structure across the state for a governorship run, right? And went through the process, the agreements that were made, that were jettisoned by the flag bearer that emerged. And I'm not the kind of person that, can stand injustice. So I left the party, I joined Labour Party, started afresh again, and emerged as a candidate. In terms of why governorship, the honest truth, I've been preparing for this for last 8 to 10 years. It's in my thesis at MIT when I wrote on communal waste management systems, and I got a distinction for. It's in my decision to work on urban planning in China to be able to understand how you want to increase the density of a place without reducing the community feeling of the place, right? It's in my work with the American government that was tackling flooding of low dwelling areas, and everything is tied to Lagos, right? Even coming back to Lagos my work with temple housing to create affordable housing using non-conventional architecture types of construction models to deliver at 60% of the cost of a regular construction process. All of these things were informing how to make Lagos better. And then my run in 2019 for Senate allowed me to go to all these wards and visit and do my door-to-door and meet people, understand the pain points, understand Lagos a lot more, understand Lagos better, know how it can be more efficiently designed, right? And that's the quality that I'm bringing to governance. And I believe that Lagos State will benefit greatly from having an architect as a governor. We've had an accountant, and yes, we're able to raise the IGR, but we cannot sustain development by taxation. We now need to create a development by true investment in human capacity in a state that runs efficiently based on design, right? So that is what I'm bringing to the table.
So we'll talk about what exactly you bring to the table in details, but let me ask you this. There are those who believe that, or who question what informs your decision, or what makes you believe you will win this election, considering the fact that you couldn't win a senatorial election. And then they ask if your new confidence is fueled by perhaps the newfound popularity of the Labour Party.
Well, you see, we should never base our achievements on a flawed electoral system, right? If you're beating yourself up because a system says that you did not win, but in reality you won and somebody cheated, you cannot base your reality on the results that that system gave you. We know what happened in 2019. You saw the videos of people stealing, snatching ballot boxes and throwing it in the gutter in front of people. We know how numbers were upturned. We know what happened in 4 local governments that they declared inconclusive. I went to the tribunal, right? So there's so much hanky-panky that's going on with this system, right? So I'm not going to base my run on a flawed system. I'm going to look at how the system is improving and to understand my chances a lot better based on the improvement of that system. Oh yes, the Vivour system is a major value add to the INEC electoral system. And that in itself, electronic transmission of votes, is such a major add. Before, you had to wait for your people to go manually to the Ward Collation Center. There, the magic will start to happen. You know, you'll be celebrating your ward we won. By the time you've gone to Ward Collation Center, things have started to change. By the time you get to the LG Collation Center, they switch off the lights, chase all your people out of the space, allow only their thugs and ruffians in, right? Write and concoct whatever they want to write, and then declare a winner the next day, right? So this is why people always say this party has not been winning elections, right? They've won 2 elections, right, in the last, since this dispensation started. So we're looking forward to a situation where people actually start to see the real results. And that is why you see them so focused on intimidation and harassment now. Because they know the realities. They know they are not a popular party. I mean, even if you look at it, less than 16%, between 12 and 16% of registered voters participated in the election. So that's not a popular government.
So,
right?
so what does the Labour Party add now? Because there are concerns.
So your second question was, are we dependent on the newfound popularity of the Labour Party? We are dependent on the people rising up to their responsibility because they have been irresponsible for too long. Politics should not be left to just politicians. The people must have a say in it if they want the politicians to respect and treat their realities, serve them. You cannot abandon your company and be complaining about a person you hired running the company aground, right? You always have to be checking on this person. There must be some kind of feedback loop that lets them know they are doing well or they are making a mess of the whole thing, you know. And the people have neglected that responsibility for so long, but that has changed. So you have a lot of young people, not just young people, that are engaged. You look at polls and you're finding that 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 are saying they are going to vote in the next election, right? So that is the hope that we have. Our hope is in the people, right? It's a new awakening. It's also a movement that has tapped into the minds of people that have been looking for character, capacity, intellectual capacity, physical capacity, you know, a vision for a new Nigeria and a new Lagos. And those people are now excited to participate. So that's what our hope is based on.
You know, when you talked about polls, I recall that recently a poll was conducted and you were in the lead. Quite an interesting lead.
No, I mean, polls are good. They give you some kind of intelligence, but I don't base my movement on it.
No, here's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
Now, before now, nobody would have thought that it would be a third party in the Labour Party that be this close to perhaps winning an election, not to talk of taking the lead at this level of the election based on the polls. And it raises the question, what is it about the Labour Party that you think has given it this level of popularity?
So I think what it is that, you see, the two ruling parties, PDP, APC, they've gotten to a point where it's just about them and their interests. It's not really about the people. It's about who is going to bring out the most money to buy the tickets in each of these parties. Nobody was looking at, okay, what are the people asking for now? What do people need? The realities that they faced. Who is the best candidate to rescue or to answer the questions that these people are asking? Right? You went from a situation where we're complaining when the dollar almost hit 200 now. We thought that Nigeria would just like scatter. We need to remove Goodluck Jonathan to a point where dollar hit 700 now. Pound is at 900 and something. Our fuel price has gone up significantly. There's massive insecurity. And you are bringing the same old people that have been part of this political machinery for so long. So you find that it's just the interest of the party. They just sold the ticket to the highest bidder and brought it for Nigerians to accept. And Nigerians say, no, we've had enough. All of you have been part of this thing. You are the two candidates are the embodiment of everything that has been wrong with Nigeria. Wrong with the ruling of Nigeria. From even if you want to look at it from a fairness, equity, justice perspective. And I've always said this, it does not make sense in a multi-plural, multicultural society to have a Fulani Muslim hand over to another Fulani Muslim. We're trying to create a Nigeria that all of us can feel a part of. That is wrong on so many levels. And then you have the other side, you have a Muslim ticket. Like, come on, like, what are we trying to say? You know? So that is one element. Another element is, listen, we've had a president that was relatively old, spent a significant amount of his time in the hospital, getting treatment, and we had to endure that. And that came in, tied into his forming of government, a lot of loss in terms of foreign direct investment, a lot of people pulled out of the economy based on all of this uncertainty. So people are looking, they want a young, vibrant, energetic president right now, right? So we're looking at what we have been through versus where we want to go to. And the two main parties did not take any of that into account.
How is that trickling down to the other levels of government? Because what you're saying suggests that the reaction is at the federal level. How is that trickling down to the other levels of government? Because the Labour Party is getting popular at that level. I recall that I had spoken with a few politicians who fear that the bandwagon effect could happen where people just go to the polls and they see the Labour Party and thump it across the Labour Party.
I think what happened was also, this should have started much earlier, but we had a lot of situations where we had to submit our candidates through we had to go to the court to get a court order for INEC to open the portals for submit our candidates. And the narrative is very simple. Peter Obi is going to make a very transformative change on Nigeria. In doing that, a lot of people are going to come against him. A lot of the status quo, a lot of people that would like Nigeria to remain as inefficient as it is, will come against him. I tell people, yes, he was able to succeed in Anambra without the assembly, but Nigeria is not Anambra. Anambra is a very monolithic, most people are Christian, most people are Igbo. They are dealing with now Nigeria, multiple interests, multiple religions, multiple forms of thinking, right or wrong. They have their interests. So he needs to be supported at the state, as the state level, at the National Senate, at the National House of Rep. We need legislatives that are going to be saying the same thing and speaking the same language. And that is it. And people realize that. So they're going to go labor top to bottom, right? Because we need governors that are going to be in line with him, in line with the labor agenda of restoring dignity to labor, moving from consumption to production. These are all things that we all need to be speaking with the same voice. So that is why it's catching on, right? And now a number of candidates are also emerging and, trying their best to pull their own weight. So people are getting excited. And they're seeing more and more of Labour Party candidates coming to the fore.
I put out a tweet talking about Nigerian politics and questioning if Nigerian politicians really know what politics is about. And the reactions have been really interesting.
Okay.
So I'll ask you this question. What's your typical idea of politics with regards to how it's played in Nigeria? And perhaps what sort of political mentorship, if any, have you received that's prepared you for this position that you're trying to take?
A very interesting question. How politics is played in Nigeria? Oof. I mean, you see, politics is a situation where you have to be all things to all men and not lose yourself at the same time. Unfortunately, people do not separate politics from governance in Nigeria, which is very sad. There is politics, which is a means to get a consensus among human beings to be able to push your agenda and get into office. Then there is governance. Politics should not carry over into governance. I mean, I'll give you a simple example. You go to any local government office in Lagos State, you see the banner and posters of the ruling party, right? You see them, they are using their offices to be campaigning and things like that. You see, that should not be. These things should be separate, right? The governance institution should run separately from political institution. It should just be like a horse. Whoever is riding that horse is riding that horse for that time, but that horse is not going to become an APC horse, right? The rider is APC, but that horse is a horse. You understand what I'm saying? So there is that. I feel that we've not solved the problems that we need to solve for us to start to have an ideology in our politics. I think the thing that comes closest to having an ideology is the topic of restructuring. And I'm hoping that we are going to get there in the next 4 years, to actually start to have the real conversation about restructuring so people can put their lines in the sand. When parties take those positions, and somebody like for me, I'm very passionate about restructuring. I cannot decamp to a party that is anti-restructuring, right? So those are things that will now start to set in with ideology and create, that divide in a political party or in political parties. Other than that, I think we're still very pedestrian in our politics, right? It's a reflection of the citizenry at large and the state of our nation, to be honest with you. I think that at time of Nnamdi Azikiwe, Awolowo, they had ideology in their politics. They certainly did. They had a very sophisticated level of followership as well. Like if you were to speak to Pahayo Adebanjo, he'll tell you he was first a Zikist. But then when Zik was talking about unitary type of government and federalism, he did not buy into that. And it's based on that idea that he went to Awolowo, right? That's more sophisticated type of politics than what we currently have today, which is about sharing money and who is the biggest man, who has the most potential to win based on the money he has. Our politics has really gone down.
So your understanding of politics, does it mean that your ideology is way more important than perhaps political mentorship?
Yes, I'll say that. Because political mentors, there are people that I look at and I admire, but do I admire them because they've lifted Nigeria to where I feel Nigeria ought to be? Possibly not. They've done well for themselves as politicians. They've been able to emerge as winners. I mean, I look up to people like Lateef Jakonde. I mean, I talk about him all the time because of what he was able to achieve for Lagos in 4.5 years. When you look at that level of performance and compare it to the last 20 years, you wonder whether he was superhuman. But it was just because he had a heart for the people. And he was very passionate about delivering quality service in the fastest possible time. You could see that when you look at and reflect on everything he was able to achieve. Same thing with Awolowo. These were people that were so passionate about delivering service to their people. So yes, I look up to politicians like that, and they did have an ideology. You would say it was not quite socialist, but it was that in between capitalism and socialism. It was a welfare system, but not a welfare system for the lazy person, but will create enough opportunities for you, even if you are downtrodden. The state is not going to leave you behind, right? It was governance with a human face. And I would say that's the kind of politics. That's my kind of politics.
Let me ask you this question I asked Mr. Akim Braithwaite. It has to do with the other political parties aside the APC and the PDP. Now,
yeah.
Lagos State has been under a certain line of leadership.
Yes.
Not the same party. It didn't start with the APC, but it's been the same line of leadership for a while. And the concerns for many is, if the people say they are tired, considering how difficult it's been for the PDP to break into Lagos State, what's stopping the other smaller parties from coming together to form a coalition and fight whatever they consider to be godfatherism in Lagos?
Yes, I mean, we're going through that process now. It's something that's ongoing. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of talk, and there's a timing to it as well. So where those conversations are being had, rest assured, and I'm sure that before the presidential elections, a coalition will be fully formed. But those conversations are ongoing.
But you agree with those who say that godfatherism rules in Lagos State?
Godfatherism has been ruling because the people of Lagos have been very irresponsible. You have to think about it. 6 million registered voters, barely 1 million people came out to vote. You can only rig an election where you are either extremely popular or there is voter apathy. Voter apathy has been the trend of the day in Lagos State. You have many young men that they will cross the desert to get to Italy. They will go on the Atlantic to get to England, but they cannot stay in the queue to vote. They would rather go and play football on the day of election. They take pride in it. So, for too long, we have left these things in the hands of the politicians because people were just not bothered, right? But now, I mean, Lagos has remained the same. There's tokenism. We are run by, look at Buhari came here, there was a whole pageantry, blocked our roads, commissioned the blue rail. I don't think anybody used the blue rail yesterday. I don't think anybody's going to use it tomorrow. And
the reason is?
It's not working. Is it working? Nobody is using it. So they use this as tokenism, and it happens every 4 years. Every 4 years, you hear about the Fourth Mainland Bridge. Every 4 years, you hear about it. Then when they enter office, the story goes down again. I mean, I can only imagine if the Third Mainland Bridge was not built by the military. We'll be on the 12th year still talking about contracts about the Third Mainland Bridge, right? So for me, it's the people waking up. This thing lies in the people.
Do you think the people are awake? Do you think the people are tired? And that the issue of voter apathy and voting based on inducements is not going to happen specifically in Lagos State?
Well, no, see, we're 60, what's that percentage now? There's a huge amount of poverty in Lagos State. And, people will always, some people will take money. We are saying take the money and vote your conscience. Take your money and vote the candidate that will be in your interest to rule, to govern Lagos State. There's that. And then also the middle class. You are here, you woke up, you got dressed, you went to work. There are many people like you. In fact, I will even go as far as saying majority of people in Lagos are like you. Even though we don't have the IGR that we have in Lagos State. We're a very productive state. We can be a lot more. We can increase our productivity by 200 to 300%. But we are productive. And these productive people, they don't need your 5,000 naira to vote. They don't need your 1,000 naira to vote, right? But they have not been coming out in the past. So that is the demographic I am targeting. I am saying it with my chest. Those people will change narrative of Nigeria because they're the guardians of democracy. If those people come out to vote and they don't need your 1,000 naira, they don't need your 5,000 naira, they'll stay and watch those elections, then you can actually, the equation then starts to get balanced. But democracy is about representative governance. And if you are leaving only a group of people that are voting based on their stomach to determine who your governor is, then that governor will only reflect those group of people.
I've listened to you on a couple of occasions speak about Lagos and say that Lagos is not working. It raises the question, is Lagos really not working? Because this is the same Lagos that is the highest revenue generating state in the country. It's sort of a yardstick of development as far as states are concerned in Nigeria. And this is the same Lagos that the APC presidential candidate is using as his campaign tool to say that he's built Lagos to this level. So when you say that Lagos isn't working, what exactly do you mean?
The man that said he built Lagos to this state, when he was growing up as a boy, he opened his tap and water will flow. He'll be able to drink water from that tap, right? My great-grandfather lived in Lagos, right? Lagos State had been excellent. That's why it's called the Center of Excellence. It was excellent. As far back as 1966, Lagos State was ranked as one of the best cities in the world. In the last decade, it's been ranked as one of the bottom worst, the worst livable place to live, worst livable city to live in the world, second worst livable city to live. The other one is war-torn, or they're having some issues with war, right? Now, Lagos State that the APC, as it currently is, inherited, was the former commercial and state capital of Nigeria. Most of the infrastructure we enjoy today was already built. The third mainland bridge. The military did so much more for Lagos than this government has done in its 20 years. These are facts, right? If the military continued on the pace that they were on, we'll be on the fourth or fifth mainland bridge by now, right? So when I say Lagos is not working, Lagos State is not working because you have to wake up at 5 o'clock to get to work for 8:30. That is madness. You don't get to see your children in the morning. You come back, your children have gone to bed, right? And you'll be sat in 3-4 hour traffic every day. And we've been doing this for decades. It's not normal. You are watching, literally, government is watching the proliferation of young men becoming agros, wasting their lives away, carrying a stick and just taking money from people. To the point where the bus drivers are now complaining. People are being robbed. There's a young man that I spoke about in my state of state address where he was shot. He was shot because they wanted to rob him. He lost his sight. This can happen to anybody, right? Even before we would say that, okay, it was in the Gomu area, it was in the Jeremy Amo area. Anyway, Lekki phase 1 now is starting to happen. And then you have youth unemployment. You are just watching it expanding. And this agro population is increasing and increasing. And you turn a blind eye because you want to use them during politics and during elections. You have a situation where they say they took 1.2 billion to do a blue line. That something almost double the length of it was done with 450 million in Ethiopia. You know, they make all sorts of excuses, but they've only done 13 kilometers in about 14 years or so, right? And it's just tokenism. Healthcare system is not working. Our education, our children are still sitting on the floor. There are no tables. They take pride in Eco Excel. That's just pretty much covered 30% of all the schools in Lagos State, right? I mean, it's just mediocrity at its finest, right? And when they say Lagos State is being used as a yardstick, you must understand that by the time, before 1999, most of the companies had their their headquarters in Lagos State. The thing that this government did was to collect taxes. So it's development by tax collection, right? But Lagos State ranks lower than Kaduna in terms of ease of doing business and it's supposed to be commercial capital of Nigeria, right? So what are we saying? And Kaduna is dealing with all the Boko Haram and war and all of that. I mean, and look at all the traffic. Just look at Lagos State and imagine if Lagos State worked. Imagine how much more productive you'll be. How many people can have 3 meetings in a day on a weekday in Lagos State? Now, think about how much traffic it takes to get to some markets. And then go and visit the inner roads in Lagos. Right? Forget Ikeja to Lekki.
You have a solution to the traffic situation?
Oh, yes. We're going to deliver 4 rail lines in 4 years. And we're going to do this transparently. We're not going to do it based on the purse strings of our government. We're going to create an enabling environment for the private sector to come and build and invest. Our job as regulators and as equity owners in that SPV, right, or whatever manifestation it will take, will be to ensure that we can regulate the prices so it's delivered at the most affordable price for Lagosians.
So you will not take loans to build those?
We don't need to take loans. There are infrastructure developers that can do this with their own funding. Our job is to regulate and ensure that the price for those tickets are affordable. Lagos State is so feasible that it can pay off itself on any of these projects, right? So that's one. Another thing, we are going to expand the Lagos West and Lagos East with a belt road in Lagos East that connects VI all the way to Ibejuleki on one side of Lagoon. On the other side, it could do all the way to Ekpe. And we're going to link this with short 6-kilometer bridges at all their shortest points. That way you create a knitting that allows for a city to work more efficiently. If you look at the way London is arranged, you see the Thames going through it. There are over 52 bridges that are linking either side of the Thames. And that's how you connect an interwoven city. Then Badagry, we have to take that blue line all the way to Badagry to restore the tourism economy that used to be there in the days of our fathers, right? And for those parts of Lagos to feel again that they are part of Lagos. We also have to map out our waterbed in Lagos State, right? Map it out. So there's data to give the private sector, right? Because nobody knows how deep is your water. We need to be data-driven as a government, right? So that even when we are giving permissions for people to do dredging, it's based on data that is furthering our interest of dredging our waterways to allow for water transportation. And once we allow for this information to be out in public, then companies can come and say, okay, I'll take this route and I'll be doing transportation by water with industrial-sized ferries that can drive on and drive off, right? Not these ones, because most people are scared of using water transportation because they are worried that of the safety. Would they flip, right? But when you have an industrial-type ferry, right, those are not the concerns that people have, right? So we need to connect and make Lagos State a truly intermodal transport state. And then do a lot. There's so much to do. You look at the BRT lane, right? We must remove that monopoly. We must open it up to the private sector and to the public. If you own a bus that can carry 40 to 50 people and meets the requirements of government, you are allowed to use the BRT lane, right? We're going to incentivize people to make ride sharing normal, right? With cameras and digital surveillance that are heat-seeking as well. We'll be able to say, okay, you are only 2 people in your car, so there's a congestion charge you must pay. You are 6 people in your car, so you can move for free, right? So we reduce the number of cars on our roads. Then we also need to make sure we have a robust local government system. I say this in every interview. We need to have potential governors as local government chairmen. So they are visionary, they are passionate, they want to solve the inner road situations all across the state. 30% of our road network is the local government responsibility, right? But the state has usurped those responsibilities, and you just see them just a mess in every local government. I mean, maybe Lekki is okay, but even Ikoyi is having issues, right?
I see that your policies would likely step on a lot of toes. You had mentioned the Agberos and the thugs, and some of these people are used as political tools.
Yes.
And this is one of the reasons why some say that it is difficult to govern Lagos, because these things are deep-rooted. So what plans do you have for the Agberos?
Yes, let me demystify this thing, because you see, we look at them and we other them. But these are people's children, these are people's brothers, these are people's sisters. And every time I meet with them, I engage them and I ask this same question. If you had jobs, would you leave the street? And I promise you, every time I ask this question, they all say yes, they will leave the street. Yes, one guy just said he wants this small bus, he wants to be a driver. I said, okay, what of packaging job? They say yes, any job. These people, the last time this happened to me, one of them told me he's a graduate from Unilag, art department. I actually recorded this. If you go on my Twitter, you see the exchange. The other one was a graduate from Musuka, right? So you have a situation where these are people that are looking for jobs, but the society has failed them, right? And they've just found themselves on the street. These are vulnerable people that the state government has pushed to bring out the worst of them, not the best in them, right? So you'll find that at least 60% of these people that we call Agberos, they'll be interested in getting employability skills, especially if there's a program and a pipeline to ensure that they're employed afterwards, right? So we're going to have employability skills workshops, skills in exchange for food programs, where we'll work with them as stakeholders at the local government level to ensure that they get the skills that can allow them earn an alternative means of income, right? So that's one. Now, the other group of people benefiting from the oppression and intimidation of Lagosians, right? If they refuse to get into this pathway, they're going to face the full wrath of the law. Because we must automate a number of things, right? You hear that these people they are charging, or they make or generate, according to what has been calculated, 120 billion every year. Now, these monies, where do they go? They're not accounted for, but you know what the worst thing is? All of us pay that money, right? Because the transporter that they are taking that money from is going to put that charge on the commuters, right? The person that is moving, logistic cost on food, on a food item, is between 30 to 40%, right? Logistic cost. You find that somebody can bring something in from China and it's cheaper than getting that same thing from the ports to Ikorodu. So that cost is going to go on that food. So eventually all of us are paying. So we have to ask ourselves, why are we paying this money? Why? Lagos is already expensive enough. How are these monies benefiting us? Since all of us are paying this money, how is it benefiting us? Is there health insurance for these agro boys? So at least we know that our youth, they have health insurance. If a car hits one of them as he's running on the road, there's some health insurance to cover him. No.
But where would the funding come for that?
I say they are generating 120 billion every year.
The parks?
Yes. 120 billion. Where is that money going? Of what benefit is it to their members? They must account for these things, right? And if they're not going to account for it, then the state needs to take charge and make sure that a majority of our youth, if they're employing so many youth, they must have benefits.
You know, that's why some people say that despite the fact that Lagos is the highest revenue generating state, that it could be generating way more.
Oh, so much more.
But the problem is that some of these monies are not getting to the government because they are used to settle political supporters.
Yes, and it's also because this government is run like a mafia machine, right? That's the closest word I can use to describe it. It's state capture. So it's just about aggregating the resources of the state for the benefit of one man, his family, and his cronies. It's not run for the benefit of Lagosians, right? It isn't. It's about whatever project is getting done is because enough arms have been greased and they have enough interest and equity in it for that project to move forward. And that's why Lagos State is suffocating. And our population is constantly increasing. And it's not something, they keep using that as an excuse. But Lagos State is on the road to be a megapolis. The region between Lagos and Abidjan is the fastest growing place on earth in terms of population. And it's going to be for the next 150 years. So whether we like it or not, we are going to have to deal with population. Now the conversation is how can you make that population productive so that the state can even earn so much more? Lagos State has the potential to be the #1 economy in Africa. It does. It has the human capacity. It has the ability to attract talents, right? And look at all the challenges we have. Imagine a Lagos State where you could wake up at 7:30 and get to work for 8. You'll be so much more productive. You'll be so much happier. People don't even realize the effect on the psychology of Lagosians dealing with this traffic on a daily basis. The effect on their health, inhaling all this smoke every day for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, right? The stress and how that stress is transferred into their family life, into their relationships, how it breaks down the family. People don't know how many relationships have been destroyed because of traffic, right? So there's so much more to improve the livability, and that's what people don't understand. It's not about projects. You see, Nigerians think about projects. Oh, he's working, he has done projects. No, it's about systems. You see, someone defined security to me. They said, security is something you feel. You don't see, right? In Nigeria, you are secure because your mopo is with you. You show security. You have your burglary proof. You have your gates. But you are not secure, right? In London, you can be in the richest part of London. There's no gates. There's no burglary proof. Because they know that you know. That if you try any nonsense, they will find you. That is security. You don't see it, but you feel it, right? And these are the things that we need to ingrain into Lagos State to make it work. Lagos State needs to work like a lean, efficient machine. You are a businessman, you can wake up, you can move your goods around, you can dry port cargo, barge your boats to dry ports in Ikorodu, in Badagry. You know, you can have 4 or 5 meetings in a day because every local government is running sustainably by itself. You can get on the train, move, you can use the ferry. Now imagine the level of productivity Lagos will rise to if you just take out all these barriers to people in Lagos State.
So while you talk about what Lagos is or what it should be, there's something else that comes to mind, and it's the dirty nature of Lagos State. It's been described as the dirtiest city on a number of occasions. And I recall clearly that when Governor Ambode tried to rejig the waste management system, there were repercussions.
Oh, yes.
What would you do differently?
Yeah, so you see, Loma is extremely politicized and we must depoliticize it. We must open. So my government is one of platforms. We create platforms and we create systems, right? It's not about projects, it's about systems, right? Projects are like the cells, but it's really the network and systems that we are pushing that will move Lagos to where it needs to be. So we depoliticize the entire Loma process. If you as an individual or a boss or a businessman have a truck, you can just like Uber, you have your car, we come for inspection, it's working, you sign up, you start project delivery, you start servicing, right? I will map out a route for you. So that's one, we're depoliticizing the waste management system. 2, we are going to stop wasting waste. You see, these people, all they do is just create landfills up and down and make Lagos stink. What needs to be done is we need to separate our waste from the houses. So organic waste is going in a decomposable bag, right? The bags are made out of cassava liquid that can also decompose when you put it in the ground. So we have that. Our plastics, our paper and other waste, they are separated from the house. Now this will be incentivized at the local government level, right? Because the resources that come out from these things, because we are doing waste to wealth, goes back to the local government. So the local government get their buy-in and they enforce that you separate waste from the house. You see, the problem with if you start doing something from Alausa, local government chairman is just going to be looking at you, right? Because what's his interest? But when you get their buy-in at the local government level, it's them that can incentivize and make sure that the homes are doing these things. Now, once you have that, the route for organic waste is going separately, right? So a biogas generator that you're able to get organic fertilizer from, you're able to generate power from, the plastics are going to where they're going to recycle, and you have these different routes. So you're actually waste managing. What they are doing in Lagos State is not waste managing. They are doing waste pickup and waste dumping. That's what they're doing. So that's what we're going to do. Because Lagos State, I tell people, after our human capacity in Lagos State, our biggest resource is waste. Because we have such a small footprint. And we have so many people, everywhere has been settled, right? At least most of Lagos, 70% of Lagos has been settled. So there's so much waste being generated. Now, once we convert this idea into waste is wealth, people will be less likely to dump waste the way they do. We'll manage waste very differently from the way that they currently do. And there are so many ways you can do this. Your plastic cup or your plastic bottle, a charge for recycling can be put on top of it that you get back when you put that plastic waste where it needs to be. These are things that are done in a lot of Nordic countries. What people don't understand is that a lot of countries even import waste. So even if we're going to take time to get to a point where we are using biodigesters and we are generating electricity, we can start to process our waste to a point where we can export it. The people that are paying for waste, and the port is right next to us. That's our comparative advantage. So these are all the things that will factor in. What local government are we going to secure or locate our biodigesters? Based on the waste that they generate. That's where data also comes in. So our local governments have to be robust. There will be data gathering centers run by very intelligent, visionary leaders, right? It can no longer be an appendage of a political system where you just send people that are, party loyalists to. No, that should be the government closest to the people that are doing revolutionary things.
You had talked about the tax collection system in Lagos. Yes, at least 60% of the revenue of Lagos is from tax collection. Yeah. But you also talked about opportunities beyond tax. So two questions. One is, would you revisit the contract between the Lagos state government and the tax processor, which is Alpha Beta, which many say is receiving too much percentage from the tax?
It is so immoral. It is conflict of interest. It is so wrong. And what is even ironic, it's so many things, but it's also ironic because they don't pay tax. The Alpha Beta company does not pay tax. I mean, that's what we saw when the former MD took them to court, right? So for me, we cannot afford a state. We cannot afford it. So many of our children are not getting quality education. So many of our people are not getting quality healthcare. If we are putting 1 billion or 5 billion every month into our healthcare, we will feel it in Lagos State, right? So we have better places to put that money into for the people of Lagos to benefit from it. So, and we are going to open it. If Lagos State government itself cannot collect their tax, we are going to put it to an open bid, right? It's not just going to be one company because man, no man, they get it. No. There's conflict of interest. Open bid. Or you can give us the best quality service at the cheapest possible price. Oh, fine. But we are going to push for Lagos State to do it itself.
So the second leg of that question would have to be how you would generate revenue beyond tax.
Okay, so for us, I've talked about it some, waste management systems to be able to create wealth. Opening up Lagos. When you open up Lagos, there's more development that's going in. There's more revenue that you can get from land use charges, COVs, and all of that. And also just creating enabling environments for several businesses to run, for a lot of infrastructure to be built, and from there, earn a level of revenue. These are some of the things that we'll be doing. And then very innovative ideas. I give you an example. We need to change all these yellow buses in Lagos State. We need about 70,000 or so of these buses. Obviously, this is a very huge cost. But imagine a Lagos State that has a platform that says, you as an individual that lives in Lagos State, a member of the Commonwealth of Lagos, you can buy a seat on this bus. And every month we are going to return monies to you based on your investment. Just imagine that. And people buy seats on the bus. You can buy 5 seats, you can buy 10 seats. And based on the money that we generate, we buy these buses. And every month you are getting a payment. This is historically, Lagosians have always owned investments in transportation.
What class of people would be entitled to buying this?
Anybody. It's open. It's open. It's transparent. This is the Lagos that I'm talking about.
You don't see a monopoly of a certain class of people?
Not necessarily. See, you'll be surprised how many people you go, who you think might be poor, owns a downfall bus. A driver, he has given to a driver, they are driving around, right? And they are bringing money to him every evening, right? So it's to open it. But the thing is to make sure you communicate this at the local government level. That's why I keep going on about how important local government level is. To go reach out to people. So before you open it, you make it easy for everybody to access. Because like you said, you don't want people to have a monopoly on it. The idea about this is creating wealth. I want wealth creation to affect everybody. And that's just one example. We have several platforms like this that we're going to create. We're also going to tie this to buses that are going to be used on BRT lane. We're going to tie it to waste management. Every revenue generating thing, we're going to do it as in partnership. So that the level of development we're pushing for Lagos State and what we want to achieve in 4.5 years will not be determined by the purse strings of Lagos State.
One thing that's present now, it's always been there. And I think the last time I saw the news, I asked, why always Lagos? It's trucks falling over and taking lives. What do you think is responsible and how can that be addressed?
Well, you know, we have a port in Lagos State and it's the biggest port, really. So there are a lot of trucks, containers coming in here. We have no business having trucks going on our roads. It's doing two things. One, it's taking a lot of lives because they're tipping over, which is also tied to bad roads. But bad roads are also tied to that weight of trucks constantly going on it. They are destroying the roads. So it's a chicken and egg situation, right? The quality of our roads obviously needs to be improved, but there's also that cycle going on. So that's where the rail line is extremely important, you know, and it's a rail line that it's not just carrying human beings, it also has to start to move cargo. Right, that's what we need to revisit in the design that the APC has in terms of their rail line network. We need to revisit that to make sure that we can get as much cargo moving by rail as possible. Right, that's one. Two, we also need to, by God's grace, His Excellency Peter Obi will be at the presidential level. And I know for a fact, we've had the conversation, he even spoke about it yesterday, that they're going to open ports all over Lagos State. So we need to decongest that means of cargo movement, right? And in ports being open across Lagos State, then Lagos State does not have to take the opportunity cost consistently of having a lot of containers moving in and out of Lagos State. So I think those are the main issues. But we need to also ensure that the roads that carry this type of traffic, when we're designing those roads and building those roads, they must take into account the heavy load that can potentially come on them.
Also, considering the housing deficits in Lagos, I think last time it was about 3 million or thereabouts.
Yes, about 3 million.
Now, the last year, the state government launched the homeowners mortgage scheme. If you become governor, is that something you would consider?
Yes, certainly. See, I'm not somebody, I'm a person of excellence, right? And if there's excellence and value in something that my predecessor has done, we'll definitely carry on with it, as long as there's excellence and value. So I think that's a welcome idea. We must introduce credit into our system. I think it is madness that a person has to accumulate so much money to be able to pay for their rent or pay for their cars. Systems don't work that way. And that's what creates a lot of greed, because people feel they must steal this big money to be able to buy this car. Meanwhile, if they could pay instrumentally, then they will not feel that need or that desire to do that. So credit must be incorporated into our system. We must also open Lagos up. And this is where transportation comes in. You see, if I can get from Ikorodu to VI in 35 minutes in a very seamless, comfortable way, then more property developers will start to locate buildings and development in Ikorodu or in Ojo or in Jeremy Feludu, right? So in doing that, you start to reduce the pressure on land in Lagos Central, right? And more people can now have a lot more developments. And when supply starts to exceed demand, prices start to fall. So that's where we need to go. We're attacking it from the supply side. And then our projects that we're going to do as well, we're going to ensure that they are open and transparent. And this goes back to platforms, right? So we're building projects. We're going to open it for the public to come and view, come and see. If you're interested in it, you can, enlist a member of Commonwealth of Lagos, whether you're a formal taxpayer, and you pay, let's say 100,000, right, to get involved in this. The idea now is a lot of people pay 100,000 and we do a lottery, and the people that win it are openly declared. No situation where the state has sold the properties to themselves and, it gets on the market and other real estate developers are now selling it for an even higher price. No. So you get this thing, but you cannot sell it onto the market. If you move out of it, you must return it back to the state to be able to give it to somebody else that's in need of it.
As we wrap up this conversation now, the elections are almost here.
Yes.
And, everyone's expressing their fears and sentiments. Do you have any?
Oh, yes. Well, you see, I was very disappointed with the way the chairman of INEC spoke about non-indigens, especially people from the southeast, in how they're trying, the frustrations that they're getting with collecting their voters' cards. I met with him and I had a good meeting with him, and he explained, maybe he was flustered or maybe there's been lots of agitation towards him on that, but he explained when I met him about how people did not do transfers. Instead, they did fresh registrations that led to double registrations. At the same time, there's been compromise at the lower levels. So I know for a fact, within INEC, I know people that are taking voters' cards, so they're saying there's a huge amount of people that have taken voters' cards. The question is, how many of those people actually got their voters' cards? So what would be good to do with INEC would be, okay, INEC officer, come, let's sit down. You have the phone number of all these people, right, that have collected voters' cards. Let's call them. Did you collect your voters' card? And let's see how many of them say that they've collected their voters' card, right, and that voters' card is in their possession. right? That would be something good to see, to be able to analyze some of these accusations.
The presidential election comes before yours.
Yes.
And it's only fair to ask you, considering the state of the race now, I recall that the euphoria was high, or should I say has always been high, but there have been reactions as to whether the Labour Party would be able to sustain the momentum till this period. As the elections approach, the presidential election, do you feel that the Labour Party is getting stronger to win this election?
We've sustained the momentum, and it's something that's very good to see. People are clamoring for Peter Obi. A lot of people say they're Igbo. No, not because of Igbo, not because of tribe. This man is excellent. And that's what we need now. We need a manager. We need someone that is, very conscious about waste, about managing resources, because we see where we have been taken to as a state. We've seen a lot of waste. Like the amount of money that we've accrued from crude oil, places like the United Arab Emirates also got that amount of monies, right? And we see what they did with theirs. Look at us till today. We're seeing sorry mess of state of things. We don't have water, we don't have lights, we're still dealing with traffic. But look at Dubai. Dubai is getting Nigerians to come and play in the deserts. If we had deserts in Nigeria, no Nigerian is going to go and play there. But Dubai has gotten to the point where they are getting Nigerians to come and play in the deserts in their country. So for me, we have sustained it. And people are excited. And I believe that come the elections this February, this month, we're going to see something truly revolutionary in Nigeria and in Lagos State.
Mr. Gbadebo Rhodes, Vivour, thank you very much for your time, and I wish you well in the forthcoming elections.
Thank you.
And that's Political Paradigm today. Thanks for your time as well. You can catch this episode and others. Simply search YouTube or go to channelstv.com. Thank you once again for your time. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.